So first of all, sort of the obvious one. Where do you think the takeover can take Newcastle as a club, and what do you think the new owners have got and can do for the city and the club as a whole?
I think what they can do as an investment group and an organisation, and I think they've showed it quite clearly earlier on, is that they're willing to compete. Competing with coaches, competing with resources into the club. They've looked into the academy, the women's team in the northeast, the area. So on the football side, on the field, they've gone into the stadium. They've made it a bit more welcoming for the fans, give it a bit of TLC, even a silly thing like cleaning the windows. It doesn't probably mean a lot to people outside the club, but the fans and that just appreciate a little bit of respect and a little bit of TLC. And I think that being said, with Eddie as the coach, with their idea and their vision, is to go back to challenging, and then whether that's challenging for Europa or obviously where the days where we was challenging for getting in the Champions League and challenging for trophies, FA Cups, and going toe to toe with some of the biggest clubs in the country. So I think that's what their goal is. Ultimately, like anybody that's going to invest with the money that they have, it's going to be like PSG, like Man City, competing for the Champions League and their domestic trophies, which is phenomenal for Newcastle, and not just Newcastle, the football club, but I mean the area, the region, the jobs it's going to create, the excitement. You're too young, but maybe your dad and that will remember how the quayside and all around Newcastle, the development that was going on in the mid-90s, early 2000, it was phenomenal, and that created a lot of excitement and a lot of buzz and a lot of growth in the area, in the region, and that's great for the people up there in that area. I was lucky enough to live up there for 8 years, and to call it my home and to see what it could potentially be is really exciting. We've had 14 really tough years, of an owner, and we're not the only club. Other owners, treat their clubs sometimes as a business, but we've had some tough times. But now we can see an owner that understands what the potential could be, what the fans would want. As I said, we've never cried out for, we want the Champions League. They just want to compete. They want to be, as they work Monday to Friday, they want their team the weekend to compete and to work as hard as they do. And I think we're going to start seeing that. We've definitely got the coach that's, ticked all the right boxes. He's there early. He's training the boys. He's involving himself in the community. And that's great to see, from a distance. So, I think it's really promising what we can do. And like we did in the 90s, just really enjoy the ride. Unfortunately, we failed. We come up short a little bit, a couple of times. But we had some great times, in the area and the people and the memories that we had. It would be great for this ownership group and this club to actually get something and to have some silverware. That's what we all want. And that's what we all strive for. But if we don't, we'll have a bloody good go, and we'll have a good time enjoying it as well.
Exactly. You touched on it there a little bit, but as well as on the pitch, what do you think the owners can do for the food banks in the area and the NUFC Foundation? How do you think that boosts the morale of the whole city and can move everyone forward rather than just on the football side?
Yeah, I'll rewind a little bit. If you remember, 2 weeks before the Tottenham game at home, we couldn't give tickets away in the end. Was people was giving them away. Once the news broke, it was sold out. Once the news broke, the away fans for Crystal Palace were sold out, and it's had that knock-on effect. And what they've been able to do with the ownership is putting money into the food bank. They've managed to match the money that's going in there. They're investing money into that, and it has that feel-good factor. As I said, the football club is the heart of the city, and the heart of the football club is the fans. And if you can buy into that and accept that and understand that, that will generate lots of positivity in the area. Now, whether it's like local charities, the trust that I'm involved in as well, we've generated a lot of money. There's rumours that the club are going to, add to that as well. So that's great for everybody, because that goes back into the community, into the area, into the schools, the hospitals, the people that need it. So it's just really refreshing. And when you go to, and again, I go back a little bit, your dad, when he used to go to the stadium, he'd have an excitement and a buzz and look forward to it. We haven't had that. Now we've got that back. And if they're going past someone, they're going to give, a couple of quid here and there, donate something to go along. And it has that knock-on effect to everyone. It has that feel-good factor. And that's what we want. And that's what we as players thrived off of, that feel-good factor. When we used to walk out, Alan, me, Gary Speed, Rob Lee, Shay Given, we would thrive for that environment. And it had that knock-on effect. We would give back, they would give back, and it had that togetherness. And again, we've not had that for such a long time, probably since Sir Bobby Robson. But hopefully we're getting it back now.
Yeah. So there again, you spoke about the club being the heartbeat of the city. Do you think maybe the Ashley ownership sort of showed on the city as a whole and its morale and happiness, and now, as you can see with the scenes outside the stadium when the news broke, do you reckon that everybody has just been given that lift in the city, and it's making the place a nicer place to be?
Yeah, I'm obviously not from the North Sea, but I lived up there. And what I think with Geordies as well, they make the best thing of a bad situation. Yeah. And even when it was bad with Ashley's, they were singing songs just to give themselves a lift, And in effect, sometimes just taking the piss out of yourself, because it was that bad. It was that dire. It was that depressing. It was that empty. It was that soulless, that the only way the Geordie fans, sod this, we're going to have a laugh. Yeah. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to do the best we can. And out of that came a togetherness. But the club was, I went there a couple of years ago. I took my youngest son. I live in America now. And we went to look at the stadium. And I was slightly embarrassed because it was rotting away. It was just left, like you would do a corner shop on the end of it was just left. It was just left like, and that wasn't what the club was. And through that time, and you've seen the immediate impact, like I've mentioned about the fans wanting to travel. With all due respect, the games haven't been much better. Like Chelsea wasn't much better. Crystal Palace wasn't much better. We got a point. Brighton first weren't much better. But there seems to be that, okay, we'll see this through. There's something that we can grab onto. And I think that, with the new manager coming in, which was good, because it was just starting to get a little bit frustrating. We haven't given a new manager. We'd had the new owners come in. There've been promises, not promises, but there've been statements of what they're going to do. And then it was like, we ain't got a manager, And, as much as Jonesy was doing well, he's not, he wasn't the answer. And then obviously now Eddie's come in. You've seen that impact and that understanding that he's got for the club and got for the players, and understanding some of the players. And that's had, again, that knock-on effect of positivity. So even when it was tough, we'd sort of make the best of a bad situation. We did it with Rude Hullet. It wasn't great with Rude, but there was enough of us that could turn it around. And in the end, it wasn't him. It was us that sort of, us being the players, and the fans could see that we was trying to get out of it. And when you've got someone like Alan Shearer, you've got a chance of getting out of a hole. And we managed to do that. And again, Sir Bobby comes in, and 18 months later, we're going to San Siro and playing games in the Champions League. So, it can turn around pretty quickly. Yeah,
no, like I said, I completely agree. I've been lucky enough to went to the West Ham game, first game of the season, then went to the Chelsea game, obviously after the takeover. And there's a sort of, you can tell there's a difference in a way. The atmosphere is just different.
You can tell it. You can tell it in the air.
Wolves.
Yeah, you can tell it was in the air. When Sir Bobby took over, Rude Hullet went on the Tuesday. He left on the Wednesday. Sir Bobby coming on Thursday. Did nothing really. Did nothing on the training ground. Just told Alan Shearer to face the goal. We go out on Saturday. They were just in the air. You could just feel that there was a positivity. You could just feel a magic feel. We go and win 8-0. It wasn't down to Bobby, and we wasn't maybe playing as well. But Alan goes and gets 5 goals, and then you build on that. And I think we're realistic enough to say, look, this group of players can get us out of a hole, and then because they're good enough, and the coach, and then hopefully come January we can add to that. But it's gonna be a grind. It's gonna be hard work, because we haven't won a game, and that's not good. We're conceding goals and we're not scoring too many. But hopefully with a bit of organisation and a bit of belief and a bit of guidance, we can start picking up some results and get some momentum going. Because once you get momentum, you know, our squad is no different than, say, West Ham. No different. Yeah. I don't think there's, maybe Leicester's got one or two players, but there ain't a lot of difference between us and them. And Everton, you can throw them into the equation as well. So we should be in and around there, and then hopefully with better quality, we should be in and around the rest of them. Yeah.
So would you say it's realistic for Newcastle to be challenging the Big Six within the next 5 years, as Staveley sort of stated when Chavez came in, especially as for this year, it's just stay up at all costs, do everything you can?
I think 18 months is a realistic 2 years. I think because that gives you 3 transfer windows. And obviously the players that are there, you know, maybe won't be there. So you have to, you know, look to get rid of some of them players, the academy that they want to invest in. And as I said, really, you know, when Sir Bobby come in, he only had Kevin Gallagher at the time, and he was 33, Kevin. But what it did is give people like Craig Bellamy, Kieran Dyer a little bit of a breathe in summer games. Like Kev could play with Alan, or he'd play on the right, or Kev would play anywhere, a bit like most of us. But it gave them the opportunity to realise that they wasn't ready at the time to play 38 games for Newcastle, week in, week out. Mm-hmm. So it gave them a couple of opportunities to do that. The following year, they was ready to do that. Then Genius come in, Lauren Robert come in. Then we started getting, obviously, Jonathan Woodgate. You know, we started building on that. And we'd done our job. You know, we being me, Rob Lee, you know, we'd done our job, and then it was time to push on and Kevin. So, you know, in that transfer window, it can be done because the nucleus is there. You've got Wilson, if he's fit, can score goals in this level. He's an England international. You think, okay, you've got Almiron, you've got Maximin, you've got players that have got flair. They need some support. Midfield, we've got players that can work hard. If you just add, you know, 3, 4, 5 quality and good people and good leaders, you've got a nucleus to start being in that middle to top. And then you're getting a good run, and, you know, Wilson gets on a goal scoring run and starts getting goals. Maybe England's that back in his sight again. You know, it can spur you on. And then you start attracting the real, you know, top players. And I mean, everybody now I live in America, everybody's talking about Newcastle because it's like what potentially could be. They know about the fans, they know about the stadium, they know about the atmosphere. Wow, if they really get it together. So, you know, it's not out the realms of like, you know, 18 months, 2 years that you can be up there. Now, the hardest thing is staying up there. Once you're up there, you've got to keep up there. But with this ownership, and I think with what happened with Umar Emery, is that was a little wake-up call that we're not going to get our own way. And I think that's made this ownership group more determined to say, okay, right, we know we're in a dogfight. We've seen what's happened with the Premier League and the other clubs. It's a little bit us against the world. And so Alex Ferguson, Man United, did that for many, many years. So we might have to have that sort of mentality as well. So yeah, going forward, it can be done. You know, will we win a trophy in 5 years? That's in the hands of the gods, you know. But you know, Man City and PSG have been striving for the Champions League, and they've not been able to do it. So there's a long way to go, but you know, the potential there to be there reasonably quickly in terms of football.
Yeah, and you spoke about getting Eddie Howe in and how there was sort of a few teething problems with the ownership actually getting that deal done. What message do you think the owners have sent to the fans and the footballing world with the addition of Eddie Howe and his backroom staff, knowing how he likes to play, how tactical he is? What sort of message do you think that sets?
I think it's a big message. I think Unai Emery is ultimately one of the best European coaches. You know, he's won Europa Cup. He was in the Champions League with a team that really haven't got a financial backing when you look at the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. So he was able to tactically, he'd be judged on what he did at Arsenal, and it wasn't great, obviously, and it wasn't maybe the right fit for him at that time. But there's no doubt about his coaching credentials. And I think what it showed is that the club has got ambition to have a forward-thinking coach, an ambitious coach, a coach that's going to be tactically aware and change it. And, you know, Eddie, when he was at Bournemouth, I think he got 3 promotions in 6 years. And then he kept Bournemouth, that was never going to build a new stadium, in the Premier League for 5 years. And it sort of, you know, it ran its course. And then he decided to leave. But when Eddie was in Bournemouth, there was talk about England manager, Arsenal manager, Man United. So there was links of him doing that. Because the team got relegated, he was sort of tarnished with that. But he said he took the club as far as he could. He spent some money. It didn't work out. He's not the only manager to do that. You know, there's lots of managers that have spent money and didn't work out. But what I like about him is that he wants his teams to go out and perform and win well. I mean, it's easy to say that, but his teams did do that at Bournemouth. He wants to be progressive, you know, in the modern game, how the game has gone forward. He's tactically, you know, you can sit down all day long and listen to him and talk to him about a conversation about the game is. And, you know, as I said, I've been lucky enough being in America. I've watched the Bundesliga, I'm watching League MX, MLS, Premier League. You know, you're watching all the leagues flying around at the moment. So you get an appetite for different systems, different style of play. And I think he encourages that with his players. He wants his players to be forward. So only time will tell. And hopefully we don't get all these messages back, well, we told you so, we told you so. But at the moment, Eddie ticks a lot of boxes, and he's shown that he understands what the club is, and, you know, even stopping for the fan late at night and do it's silly little things. You know, it doesn't mean a lot to other fans and other clubs, but Newcastle's a special club. They're special people, and he has to understand it, and I think he does.
Yeah, definitely. It is the small thing, isn't it? Like you said. So on the pitch and in the team, where do you think the main place we need to strengthen in January is? Obviously, you've got your attacking threat, but is there much depth in the attack? Is the defence good enough as it is now? Never mind with depth to keep the team up. Where would you say we need to strengthen?
I think right away through the spine of the team. You know, I think the goalkeepers are decent, but they've been looking around. To Stegen was another name that was linked, and, you know, Trippier as a fullback. I think that and you know what's nice. You're talking about, you know, Champions League players that you're trying to attract. You know, we're not looking around, scraping around to get a loan, or, you know, get someone that's not really is falling out with a manager, another club, that we're trying to get a little bit of juice out of them. They want to get proven internationals. But I do think right the way through the team, I think, you know, a strong leader defender, centre half would be one. I think we need a creative box to box midfield player, you know, but there's not too many of them around at the moment. And again, another striker. So to answer your question, I think we need a whole lot of depth, because you know, whether it's the players have just been beaten up into a situation where they're lacking confidence, lacking morale, lacking ideas, but that group of players won 2 games from November to April, and they haven't won a game this season. Yeah. So, you know, they've been used to getting beat. So you have to bring some different mentality. But, you know, I think, as I said, right through the spine of the team would be beneficial to everybody. And also the players that are there, they've got, you know, this juggernaut's going to go. So that they've got a chance. They're in the driver's seat. They've got the opportunity now. They've got 5 or 6 weeks to prove it. If not, it's going to be their loss. And as I said, Umar Emery, he decided not to come. I think he's going to maybe regret that in a few years' time, you know. And that's we do. And I think that's just the nature of the business. And you make a call, you make a decision, and you live and die by that. So, but, you know, I think it'll be exciting. You know, the players that we're looking at, and, you know, again, this window is not going to be the players that are going to see us through the next 10 years. You know, like you mentioned it there correctly. It's about staying in the Premier League and building on that. Now, if we can get to where we want to get to mid-table or in and around that, we're snap your hand off at the moment. But if you can get that, then we'd love to obviously move a little bit higher up, and then you can get the other players. Because, as I said, the summer, you got obviously, you know, the World Cup's coming up as well. But players have start looking around to see where they can, you know, go to I hate this phrase that they say, but this project. And it pisses me off a little bit when they say that, but it is a vogue word at the moment. People would want to be part of this project because you can see it can be exciting.
Yeah, I think a lot of Newcastle fans, well, and obviously you as well, will hope that with the addition of Howe, he can build on what we've already got, as in, you saw what Benitez did with the players like Longstaff. Can Eddie Howe make those players that are in the team now that obviously have promise, like Longstaff, like Joe Willock, can he push those further to the level that they should really be at and haven't been at under Bruce's sort of tenure?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt the players will have and I can just go back to when, you know, and I was a bit more of a senior player, but when Rude left and, pushed people like Rob Lee with the kids, Nikos Dabizas with the kids, training with them. We brought them back in, and immediately there was a knock-on effect with everybody. As I said, whether it was a Clarence Acuna that was, a good player, he lifted his level of performance. Rob would come in and play next to him, he lifted him up. You had Speedo in there. All of a sudden, you generated some confidence. And confidence is such the top elite players somehow, I don't know, but they find a way to keep their confidence and keep their focus and that's why they're the top players. Then you have the second tier players that bit of confidence, they're really good players. You give them some confidence, you give them all of a sudden they're doing things spontaneous, they're not thinking about things there. And I put myself into that. Once you get confidence in it, all of a sudden you become a really good player, and you can build on from that. So that's what I would imagine Eddie and his staff have been working on, and looking at the potential of these players. If we can squeeze another 15-20% out of them and we get a result against Brighton, we get another result against, and then all of a sudden you've got 3 or 4 decent results in 5 or 6 games, that belief, and then you don't start second guessing yourself. You do things automatically, and you do things because there's a vision, there's a plan. As a player, you need to have a foundation. Right, if I'm in doubt, I can give it to Nobby Solano. If I'm in doubt, I can go to Alan Shearer. If I'm in doubt, I'll give it to Rob Lee. I got a plan, not get it and think what you're going to do with it, because it doesn't work like that. The game doesn't work. You need to know and be in sync with people, and work on the training ground. If I'm in a hole, if I'm struggling, I've got people close, I know I can just clip a ball down the line, and Al would know I'm in trouble and get me a throw in. And now we can squeeze up the field, and then we can start playing our football. It's basic things, but we never seem to have, against the Spurs game, when we started off well, we got the goal, and then it was like, we didn't have a run in us. We dropped back. We didn't know what we was doing. And then all of a sudden, the back line's all over the place. And before you know it, they've won the game 3-1, the game's over. And that's because players like, what do we do? We've got, if it's like, well, we get it, now we're going to keep it. Like, we know the 5 minutes they're going to have a reaction. We need to do X, Y, Z. And, that's from the training ground. Bobby would say to us, if you're in trouble, this is what we need to do. If we've got it and they back off, we can do that. Once they start squeezing up, then we can go into Al. As soon as it goes in Al, Gary's going to join you. And then you've got Kieran, you've got Bellas, and then we're running riot. We're running at their team. They're the things that I think the players will have a foundation, and that gives you that confidence inside, that you clip a ball somewhere, you pass a ball inside, and someone takes it. Now all of a sudden we've got a corner, we've got a throw in, we've got a free kick. That energy and identity. It's the little things in the game. Pep does it in another way. He fouls everybody as soon as they lose the ball. But what it does, it stops the other team having momentum. All you can do is argue with the ref and say, look, it's going to happen. But 9 times out of 10, they end up being up on the field, and they don't end up getting too many times on the counter attack.
Just 2 more questions. You've sort of got the obvious one that you sort of have to ask. Do you feel okay, and do you think a lot of Newcastle fans feel okay putting all their support and fully supporting a team that are owned by a country with not a very good human rights record? Do you think that should have an effect on the fans and other people's perceptions of the club, or do you think they can separate the football from the country and the human rights problems that they've got going on?
All I know with Newcastle fans and Newcastle people in that area is that they're good people. And if they believed in a situation that you said with human rights, and we were talking about Qatar now with the World Cup, there's been lots of talk about what's happened there with their stadiums and the human rights. We would all feel the same. We're all human beings at the end of the day. And if we feel that there's been a line crossed, then I think we would hold our hands up and say, look, we don't agree with that. The Premier League had a certain criteria of how to deal with all ownerships, whether it was the Chelsea ownership, the Man City, the Arsenal, and obviously the Newcastle. This ownership group worked hard to tick all the boxes to make sure they was to go into it. So when it was given by the Premier League, then it was sanctioned okay. And football should be no different to Facebook, it should be Shell. It should be no different. If there's a feeling that there is something wrong, then it should be investigated. And it was investigated. And they did have the criteria. So of course, what happens in other countries all over the world, I'm old enough to remember, things that have gone on all over the globe. And we have a responsibility as well. People in the UK, sometimes we've got to look at what we're doing and how we're treating people and where we're getting stuff from. So, I think we are sensitive enough and understanding enough that we feel that if there was something that we felt was wrong, then they would have sent it. I think the media and again, a lot of other fans are getting caught up that we're pushing that away. We're not. It's at the table. We're talking. I haven't heard one person, that hasn't had the conversation about it. I haven't, Eddie got pulled up in probably in his greatest moment, maybe apart, maybe not getting England, man. His greatest moment, he had to answer that question, and he was there to talk about football. It wasn't about another time. I'm sure he'd say his beat, but he didn't shy away from it and say, "Oh, no comment, no comment." It's just, I'm here to talk about. There will be times that we would discuss that, but at the moment, that's not the conversation. So, as I said, I just know that people in that area, if there was a real yearning for something that was wrong, they would hold their hands up and say, "Hold on a minute, let's try and focus this out." So, it wasn't. Premier League okayed it. They've shown straight away they're, nearly £40 million they've invested in, or what they're going to invest into the club, into the area. That's more than the other ownership did in about 2 or 3 transfer windows.
Yeah.
So, they are there for the long term. And, that is something that's going to go, there's other ownerships. They're still asking questions, what's going on now? They're still having to answer questions. So, there will be things out there. But, we have to just be transparent, and the Premier League okayed it. And we've now got to focus on what we're doing. But it does seem, particularly with Amanda, like, and this is what I hate about the media, that there's like a witch hunt for her, and all she's come across as being a decent human being. And that's something that it upsets me, because that's not fair. That's not right. That's not right. You're talking about what they feel is not right. What they're doing there is, and I just know that the fans will get behind her. I mean, for a businesswoman in football, it's hard enough anyway. Ask Karen Brady when she was doing it. So, for someone like this to be in it, and the way that it's being portrayed is wrong, and it's disgusting. And she'll get our support, and I know what it'd be, that it will turn around, that she's doing a good job, and she's got her heart and soul into a project that she believes in, and she's got her husband next to her, and that speaks volumes, because it can't be easy.
No, definitely. And,
I wouldn't be working with my wife 24 hours a day.
I imagine it's harder than it looks on the outside.
Yeah. You know who's going to win anyway. You know who's going to win the argument.
You don't get much say there, do you? And yeah, just finally, you're Eddie Howe. January comes around, you've got a £200 million checkbook. Who's your first signing? Who's the marquee signing that you're going to get? It's going to get the fans on side. You've got the project underway. Who's your man? In
fantasy land, or are you talking about realistic? In fantasy land, yeah. No, I mean, if it's fantasy land, you go someone like Haaland. He's so exciting. He's got a personality. He's got a bit of arrogance about him. Obviously, his dad played in the Premier League. He knows about the area. That's the marquee signing. If you
like to be benched for Wilson, though, would he? So I have to get used to that.
But they can play together. I'm sure they can play together.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can figure it out.
2 strikers. I'm used to playing 5 at the back.
Yeah, exactly. As I said, I spoke about a Sterling, these type of players that are not playing Chilwell. Wants to be playing regular football at Chelsea. You looked at Jesse Lingard, at Man United. There's players, that type of players, that they understand the Premier League. They also know what Newcastle is, because some people from outside are not. They hear of what it is, but they've played in St James's Park, even when it was, disappointing with the ownership. There was still a roar, there was still a passion, there was still an energy that they would understand it. They're the players that you would look at, and obviously, there's lots of players in Europe that are around. So I just think you need that nucleus of experienced players, but not older players. But you need experienced players that also understand the culture of the football club and the league. Not saying they've all got to be from the Premier League or ex-Premier League players, but you can add that with 2 or 3 others that are maybe playing in Ligue 1, playing in Serie A, and maybe, these players that could come along. But as I said, it's exciting rather than, with all due respect, looking at Division 1 or the Championships and who can we get on loan, or who we got a young kid that's out loan somewhere in the Championship that we can maybe get to just see us through. So, yeah. Time will tell, but I'm sure we're going to be linked with every player that's around, which is quite nice because beforehand we've not been linked with anybody.
Exactly. Well,
it got that bad. They was asking for me and Rob to come back.
You can do a much worse job than they're doing at the moment.
Yeah, I take that as a compliment. Actually, I take it as a compliment. But you're right. Yeah, but no,
you're better than Javier Manquillo. Let's just put it that way.
It's refreshing to see that there is some life and some energy there, and I'm sure it continue as well.
Well, I hope we can do this in 5 years' time, talking about how we've just won the Champions League.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I'll be the first one to celebrate.